This is the presenter framework, and coming up in the first 7 minutes, we're going to talk about these cornerstone elements. Exactly what are they and how do they tally, and how do they all measure up in this space of the presenter's framework. So as I get started, the first thing that I wanted to just highlight for you again is to repeat what those four are. There they are. The elements are the messenger, who has a person with a message. There's a receiver on the other hand, which is the audience, and there's a presentation. And if you put those four together, I just had a giggle when I thought, those could easily be part of a movie that has the longest title. It's right up there with the Magnificent Men and their flying machines. So let's go and look at this speaker. And as I said, this key part for me is this relationship between the message and the audience. It really is interesting to figure out what it is that makes some messages land better than others, and why are some messages sometimes just lost on the world. And you often see it in a presentation when there's a strong idea that starts out, there's a lot of repetition that happens, and before you know it, the thing seems to go awry and we're not really sure about what we're communicating anymore. Here's a quote of somebody that I thought really had a finger on the pulse for ideas. It's Vincent Minnelli, and you would know his daughter got to be quite famous too. He says, "A picture that stays with you is made up of 100 or more hidden things. They're things that the audience is not conscious of, but that do accumulate." And I think that that was something quite interesting about the non-tangibles of a presentation, the stuff that the audience may not be aware of, but it is pulling them in constantly, and it is that stuff that becomes the memorable, the repeatable information. So I would start by saying the one thing that you have to think about a message is, what is it that makes a message unique? And Vincent Minnelli had a saying around, what is your angle? What is the angle that you go in with? So more than a good story, more than characters that connect, or language and tone or emotion, at the heart of it, human interest is an angle that really connects with people. You have to be able to discuss the crucial features of what it is that your pitch is going to do for your audience, and you have to be able to enlist those unique qualities for your audience. So here are some 5 ideas that may help you to figure out and hone in on what it is that is your unique angle. The first one that comes to heart is this idea that something must not only be newsworthy or share-worthy, it also has to be interesting. It is the difference between watching a movie or a series or something that has characters that sort of just wash over the screen, but nothing really grabs you. There isn't an interesting character that has a strange tattoo, an interesting character that behaves in a strange way, a place where they go that's interesting because of something spectacular that happens there. See what it is that has interest in your story, has interest in your topic, that can really reach the audience in a different way and stand apart from what else is out there. The second one that I really like is more than the who, the what, the where, and the when, and the why. What makes this message that you have absolutely essential to share? And so it could be something that's deeply personal to you, but it could also be something that is going to be deeply personal and connect and touch your audience. But you have to work on something that is essential, that makes it stand out, that makes it almost be urgent in a way. The next one you can look at is the lead that sets the tone. That first sentence in a news article, that first sentence in a blog, is that one thing that makes us care. It gives us compelling reasons to care. And you have to figure out how your unique angle starts out by being something that shakes the audience up and says, here's something interesting as a lead, now come along for the journey. The next one is to really look at how you can use light and shade or contrast of perspectives to drive the action home. This is something that can make the message really unique, because if a message doesn't have inherent action, motion to move forward, to react, to respond, the audience may just sit there in a kind of a so what way. And so it's really important to figure out how you're going to get this in your angle so that the shift of perspectives will drive the action forward. Again, very, very important one. And the last one is really to see what it is that you bring that's unique to this experience? How can you make people care about the subject matter that is obviously important enough for you to speak about? Let's go and look at some hints and tips that you can use. So first of all, the idea is to start by looking at the umbrella idea, the topic, the grand master of ideas that you're sitting with, and to start seeing if you can get subjects out of that or categories out of that. Let's say, for example, it would be gardening. So your grand topic would be gardening. You look at it broadly, and then you start breaking it into subtopics. There's commercial gardening. There's gardening to relax at home. There's gardening for kids. Could there be other kind of categories that you can put this subject matter in, and you can connect those with different audiences? Because if you think about it, kids gardening would have a very, very different audience to corporate gardening, because something that's in the office and more professional sort of space has a different audience by definition. I don't know why I picked gardening to use it as an example. And then from there, you can go and choose the very best angle so that you can really go and work with a relevant audience, because it is most important that you are audience appropriate with your message. Most times when an idea does not land well with an audience, it would be because it's the wrong audience that's in front of you in the first place. And I think this is something quite key to go and take a look at. From here, if I had to hang a pin for you, I would say, as a note on audience, you have to realize that you're not going to be everybody's cup of tea. So don't be offended when people unsubscribe. Don't be offended when people don't watch what it is. You may have a very niche audience of only 10, and that is fine too. I think the consistency and getting in there with your message and keep going with it is really what is going to grow your niche audience over time into specifically this online space that we're in at these days. So if I had to go back to that model and start looking at the presentation, obviously in coming towards the end of the presentation, in this particular segment, there's this ultimate connection between a speaker and the presentation, the delivery mechanism. It's important that you as a presenter comes across with credibility, that there's authenticity and truthfulness, that your energy and pace shifts the whole time, and that you speak with clarity. But it's as important that the presentation is slick and seamless and almost embodies a kind of a version of you. It's an extension of the speaker. So there has to be an overall cohesion, and there has to be high entertainment value, because these shifts in the energy will be what will keep your audience going. So that's a quick look at what that initial layer looks like to see what's at the very heart of the presenter framework.